Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Low in news, but I'll be doing this report. Now, I am a huge person for self-defense. I think if anything comes to you in self-defense, you should be able to defend yourself as you see fit because, well, it's your life on the line. And we all know the actual human nature and things of like that of when you go and be put in fight or flight mode, decision making is not always the best. Well, we have this judge here that is in Minnesota that has pretty much just abolished and destroyed all of self-defense possibilities ever. And I think we should know that if you're in Minnesota right now, perhaps leaving the state because now criminals can just go and attack you and you have no right to defend yourself because that's what the Supreme Court said. So without further ado, here is some of the things that's going on here that you guys need to hear. Take a look.
This a bombshell decision that could change the game when it comes to self-defense encounters.
They're talking about a ruling by the state Supreme Court that sets a new precedent in Minnesota's duty to retreat laws. Maury Glover joins us now from the newsroom with more on this to break it all down. Maury?
Well, in Minnesota, there's a duty to retreat when reasonably possible before using a deadly weapon. But the new ruling says there's a duty to retreat before even showing a weapon.
Now, before we get completely into this and kind of showing you guys exactly what we're talking about here, we need to give you the actual story of what's going on and why they kind of decided to make this horrible decision and why I don't think being in Minnesota is anywhere near a good idea for yourself, for your own very well-being. And here's what it has to say here with this. It says here, the duty to retreat when reasonably possible, a judicially created element of self-defense, applies to persons who claim they were acting in self-defense when they committed the felony offense of second-degree assault fear with a device designed as a weapon and capable of producing death or great bodily harm. Now, I understand that when you are in a self-defense mode or you are fighting for your life or any type of stress situation that, that has to do with your life being on the balance, it's usually not great. I mean, you're going to make horrible decisions. You're not going to be checking your outer surroundings and stuff like that. So obviously, these type of things are not going to be great. But again, as long as you're not trying to hurt or as long as you're not trying to actively attack someone after you've been attacked, if they're trying to attack you, it's okay. I mean, you can threaten somebody. Having a gun and pointing it at them can be considered a threat. Because now you're dissuading them from wanting to attack. And as long as you say like the typical things like don't attack, it's what have you. I think even Andrew Braga is going to have something to say about this law of self-defense because this is an insane ruling in itself. And then we have this here. When viewed in a light most favorable to the verdict, the evidence presented at trial proves, beyond a reasonable doubt, the defendant's claim that he lacked a reasonable opportunity to retreat. Affirmed. And if this person lacked the duty to retreat, then we have it's not great. So like, for instance, he didn't have anywhere to go to for retreating, right? There is no way to actually find a way to retreat, so he had to use his best way to dissuade people from wanting to attack him. There's more to the story here, but I'm going to show you a little bit more of what's going on with this whole situation so you guys get the full picture.
When the Minnesota Supreme Court upheld 2 second-degree assault with a deadly weapon convictions against a man with a machete who was threatened by a man with a knife at a Minneapolis light rail station, the state's highest court also set a new precedent involving Minnesota's self-defense laws.
So we're going to be going over the actual full story here of what you guys kind of need to know because, again, you have to understand why they made this ruling, what's been going on, and why it's still stupid, and all that stuff. So let's go with here. So on June 2nd, 2021, Belvins was on the light rail platform at the U.S. Bank Stadium Plaza Station in downtown Minneapolis. A woman wearing a teal shirt, a man wearing a sweatshirt, and a man wearing a tank top were also on the light rail platform. Now, these are 3 people. The woman and the 2 men knew each other and were loitering on different parts of the platform. When Belvins walked past the woman, she said something to him, and Belvins responded angrily. While Belvins and the woman continued to argue, a train arrived, and people stepped off the train. As the train sat at the station, the man in the sweatshirt who was armed with a knife walked towards Belvins and the woman. According to Belvins, the man in the sweatshirt told him to come into the platform shelter outside the view of the surveillance camera so that he could slice Belvins' throat. Now, that is what we call a threat to your bodily harm, a threat to your life, so that doesn't seem very good there. In response to the threat, Belvins pulled a machete out of his waistband. Belvins then, then moved toward the woman and in the sweatshirt, yelling and holding the machete. The woman and the man in the sweatshirt began backing away from Belvins. As the man in the sweatshirt put his knife away, the man in the tank top aggressively walked up to Belvins. So, again, the only thing Belvins has done here so far was perceived as an actual legitimate threat, and I think if you put it in this way, in this regard. If somebody says, I'm going to beat you senseless, or somebody's going to say, I'm going to carve you up, or I'm going to slice you, or I'm going to shoot you, and you're in that frame of mind, your only ability is to think of, okay, that doesn't sound good, especially when you don't know people. When you don't know people, it is one thing that it should be very obviously clear that you don't know what they're going to do. You have no idea what their plans are, you have no idea what type of people they are, and this is going to trigger a self-defense mechanism within yourself to say, like, okay, I don't like this. This is not making me feel comfortable. I think I should go pull out my weapon for self-defense, and hopefully they just don't attack. Hopefully this will dissuade them from doing this. And yelling and waving this machete around and stuff like that, this is the type of thing that would probably dissuade people from wanting to attack you. Hopefully so. Although Belvins feared for his safety, he did not try to walk away. Instead, Belvins moved forward toward the woman, pointing the machete at her as he yelled. Belvins also lunged at the man in the tank top while holding the machete in his hand in an aggressive manner. According to Belvins, he was trying to get the woman and the two men to back off. Belvins yelled and swung the machete at them for approximately 1 minute, causing them to retreat. As they retreated, Belvins took a less aggressive posture, although he continued to yell. I think this is an appropriate way of doing this. Again, maybe perhaps he shouldn't have. I mean, perhaps. And this is going into a more of the leftist mindset. Perhaps he shouldn't have lunged at the guy. But again, if you want to have self-defense, you should be able to have the ability to point out to defend yourself, right? This is, I mean, I don't know what else to tell people. If the one person is walking up towards, and one person walked aggressively towards you, I think that is the key word here, aggressively. So when you walk up aggressively towards someone, yeah, you're going to start swinging out your knife. You're going to be yelling and stuff like that to put fear in them to dissuade them from wanting to attack you. I think that's normal. And another big thing here is when they started running away, he withdrew his aggressive manner, didn't attack, nobody got hurt, nothing happened, and this is the outcome of the situation here. So I don't really see to where we have a problem in this matter, right? I think that what we have is Belvins accurately defended himself and dissuaded the people from wanting to attack him, and he did nothing else. So I don't know what else to tell people. And this is what the Supreme Court had to say about the whole matter.
In a split decision, the court wrote that long-standing Minnesota law says that a person needs to retreat when reasonably possible, even when facing bodily harm, and that security video contradicted the man with the machete's claim that it was not reasonably possible for him to do so. But according to Rob Dorr, the vice president of the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, the ruling means anyone who uses a deadly weapon in self-defense must look for a reasonable way to retreat before even showing a weapon.
Now, this is what Thess had to say here about the whole about what, kind of why he had the duty to retreat and not run away. So he says, assessing the sufficiency of the evidence under the standard applicable to direct evidence here, the surveillance videos clearly show that Belvins had room behind him to retreat and could have walked at an angle, keeping an eye on the woman and the two men while he retreated. Moreover, at various points, the woman and the two men turned their backs to Belvins while he was brandishing his machete, giving Belvins an opportunity to retreat from them. Thus, when viewed in a light most favorable to the verdict, the evidence presented at the trial just proves, beyond a reasonable doubt, Belvins' claim that it was not possible for him to retreat. So, again, here's the problem that I have with this, right? When they're saying he had an opportunity to retreat. If you're against three people, the last thing you want to do is put your back against the opponent. Hell, the last thing you don't even want to do that when it's one person. God forbid, three. So, when you're in a fight or flight response and you are wanting to defend yourself, you're not going to be thinking too clearly. You're not going to be being completely in the right mind because your only method in your brain right now is to survive the encounter that you are in. That's the only thing. This is the reason why when we put in with Kyle Rittenhouse in this situation on how his stuff was so excellently well done was because even despite the situation that he was in, he did excellent in the terms of walking away despite the amount of things that he was in. So, in this guy's case, it's even different. He's not thinking as clearly as Kyle Rittenhouse was. So, when he's in the situation, he doesn't know that there's a place to retreat. You don't want to take your eyes off of the people that are threatening you at all. You just don't. You want to be in a place to where you're facing them, you're watching them, so you know you're not going to be attacked any longer. It's just normal. You don't want to turn your back on an opponent. It's just like when you're turning your back against a tiger or a lion or any type of cat for that matter, they pounce on you because that's your vulnerable spot. You can't be doing this against people and perceive that you're not going to be attacked after they do things. There's been numerous times where if you let go and turn your back behind somebody, then they go and attack you. And this is just the reality. And I think this is completely insane here on this regard of what's been going on.
Minnesota is one of the states that in the minority that does have a duty to retreat. But now with this decision, we are literally the only state in the country that requires you to retreat before you even present a force option.
In a dissenting opinion, one of the justices wrote, not only is the court's decision unprecedented in the United States, it also flies in the face of human nature. A view Dorr agrees with, saying in the moment, most people don't have time to look for a way to retreat before grabbing or at least showing their weapon to defend themselves.
I don't think that this is a practical way that a self-defense encounter would unfold. If you're confronted with a threat, you're going to want to mitigate that threat as soon as possible.
Yes, and what people need to start understanding here too is that a lot of these instances are very, very quick. People start saying like, oh, how long 30 minutes is, or like, 30 minutes is not that long, or, an hour feels like forever or whatever. But here's the thing. If you have objects moving at a certain speed, things, seconds to minutes can seem very, very quick. So when these type of encounters would start engaging, it only takes a few seconds for things to go from, maybe a semi-okay situation to downright just death knocking at your door. So I don't see you're not going to have enough time to respond or know your every avenue of self-defense. That's just reality. You're not going to be thinking about that. You're thinking going to be about survival. And what the guy said here in the only state, he's not wrong. If we go look here at Nebraska, we look at Nebraska here, and even Nebraska says the state of Nebraska does impose a duty to retreat unless you are at your own home or place of work. Even then, you may have a duty to retreat if you are the initial aggressor or you are attacked in your workplace and the assailant also works there. So, again, even in Nebraska, this is something that even if you are potentially the aggressor, you still have the duty to retreat regardless. So that's where it works here. And then we have in New York, which, as we all know, is a very, very, very blue state. You are allowed to use force including deadly force, to defend yourself against an intruder. Public places while in public, you must retreat if you can do so safely. If retreating is not possible, or if you are cornered, you can use physical force to defend yourself. So even in New York, their self-defense laws for a duty to retreat is better than the Minnesota laws. So I don't know what else to tell you people. When you have these laws here, when you have even in New York, where it's the most insane, you're seeing this to where you are allowed to use force, including deadly force, to defend yourself against somebody. And this is just an intruder. And anybody goes in and say, well, in public, you must retreat if you can do so safely. And the fact of the matter is, you should be able to defend yourself. You should be able to brandish your weapon. You should be able to dissuade people from attacking you. That is all what the weapons are for. What's the point of having a weapon if you can't dissuade somebody? If you can't defend yourself from showing a weapon or whatever, then I don't know what else to tell you. Weapons are meant for self-defense and to dissuade people. If I point a gun at somebody, my whole point is to dissuade them from attacking me. Unless I'm a psychopath and I just want to end them for whatever apparent reason, which means that's not self-defense. That's just you being a complete psychopath. But again, when you point your weapon at somebody, you point your gun at somebody or a knife or anything of that matter, is to dissuade them. And if you're swinging at somebody, whatever, to dissuade them, and you're not trying to attack them, all is good. There should be no problem there. But of course, in Minnesota, the Supreme Court thinks differently, and you shouldn't be able to pull out a weapon or anything. And even if in a fight-or-flight response, you should still be able to find other avenues and be able to retreat. Even in the flight-or-flight responses, you would still get this self-defense in here. So I have no idea what's going on here. I don't know what's going on with Minnesota, but obviously self-defense has been completely eroded and destroyed in Minnesota, and I do not see how people can remotely defend themselves anymore in this state, because obviously if you brandish a weapon and show it to them, that's now a problem. You can't do that. So I don't know what's going on here. Minnesota has a huge issue, and this is me saying that Minnesota has no self-defense law whatsoever. There is no law. You can't really readily defend yourself. Even New York, God forbid, has a better self-defense law, or Nebraska has better self-defense law than Minnesota does. And this Supreme Court, this needs to be challenged to the highest court possible, maybe even going to Congress or whatever, because this is insane, and I don't know what else to tell people. Just get out of that state, because it is doomed, and doomed beyond reprehension to have this even be a conceivable thought for self-defense. It's insane. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share. As always, take care, my friends.
I'm disgusted by what I see in public. Even people closest to us can't be trusted, because it's algorithmic disease, the social media.